Yo, what's up everyone? Today is April 26th of 2025, and in today's video we're going to talk about the NFL draft and a very curious story that came up late last night, early this morning, about the first round draft pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a man named Derek Harmon from Oregon, originally from Michigan State, who just hours after learning that he was drafted into the NFL, learned that his mother passed away. His mother, having suffered a stroke several years ago, was in poor health for a long time. And immediately after he got to the hospital to tell her the news, she passed away. So in this video, we're going to talk about how this is connected to the huge news story this week with the death of Pope Francis. Now, a man with a name similar to Francis, Franco Harris, used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a star running back, a member of the Hall of Fame, and he suddenly died back in 2022, just 2 days before his jersey number was set to be retired. So in this video, we'll talk about the synchronicity and, of course, the numerology of this news story. Now, although this happened on the night of the 24th, this news did not come out until late last night and didn't really make headlines until today. Today being Saturday, April 26th. April 26th, the date of the funeral of Pope Francis. Now, if you go to Football Reference and look up the name Derek Harmon, this guy who was just drafted, you'll notice there's actually two results. This is not the first Derek Harmon to play in the NFL. Back in the 80s, the 49ers had a running back for a few years with this same name and the same spelling. That Derek Harmon, Derek Todd Harmon, was born on the date April 26th of 1963. This means today is his 62nd birthday. The number 62 in the language of Gematria, with the base 4 methods displayed on your screen, is an important number of sacrifice, which sums to 62 in reverse reduction. And we'll look at a couple more of these numbers in a little bit as we go. Now, when the Pope passed away, it was just 1 day after he was visited by the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. And remember, J.D. Vance succeeded a woman named Harris, Kamala Harris, who shares a last name with Franco Harris. And on the date of the Pope's funeral today, check out Kamala Harris's age. 60 years, 6 months, and 6 days. This will bring us to a significant riddle connected to the number of the beast, 666. Now, this year's NFL draft was hosted in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is where the Steelers picked Derek Harmon in the first round. Well, the Steelers and Packers have a strong history in the NFL, not only because they're the two most popular franchises, along with the Cowboys and a couple other teams, but these two teams also squared off in a Super Bowl, Super Bowl 45, which is the last Super Bowl that either team has played in to this very day. Now, I have a lot of previous work on this game. You can check the links down below in the description for links to pretty much anything I'm talking about today. And this points to a bigger riddle connected to Aaron Rodgers, whom just so happens to possibly be joining the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. In Super Bowl 45, Aaron Rodgers was the MVP, leading the Packers to a win over the Steelers. And now, as rumors swirl of Rodgers joining the black and gold, we get the death of the Steelers player's mother after he was drafted in Green Bay. So there's a lot of things that we'll look at. And we'll also be paying attention to the moon because 666 is, of course, the ultimate number of the moon. And when you punch in Aaron Rodgers' birthday, you learn that he was born during Brown lunation number 753. Well, that immediately stands out because the year 753 BC was the founding of ancient Rome. And Pope Francis died on April 21st, which was Rome's anniversary. Of course, this led to a massive Revelation 666 riddle. So if you haven't caught my video on the Pope yet, definitely go check that out. The Pope's passing was also connected to the death of former NFL and WCW legend Steve Mongo McMichael. Now, Steve McMichael won a championship with the Chicago Bears. And notice how the Chicago Bears are currently sitting on a total of 666 losses. This was the major number of the NFL playoffs this year. Remember, if the Eagles had lost the Super Bowl, they would have a record of 666 and 666. Philadelphia, the city that gets its name from the book of Revelation, where 666 is revealed as the number of the beast. In fact, to make it to the Super Bowl, they had to beat the Commanders, who are now 666 and 669. So we'll look at this spreadsheet again in a little bit, because there's a lot more to uncover in this story. Now, in the back half of this video, we're also going to talk about how this is all synced up to the September 11th attacks. That's right. And I believe there's a connection to Shedeur Sanders, as the Giants traded up in the draft, the city from New York, the team from New York, and ended up taking this Jackson Dart guy instead. Sanders falling all the way to the 5th round. And we'll look at how his numbers tie into this event as well. So let's start off by talking about Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was the man who led the Green Bay Packers to the Super Bowl victory over the Steelers. This was noteworthy because Mike McCarthy was from the city of Pittsburgh, so he defeated his hometown team in the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was played in the city of Dallas, Texas. And after he was fired by the Packers, McCarthy then coached for the Dallas Cowboys. This past offseason, McCarthy was let go by Dallas and is now out of a job. So McCarthy has this connection to Pittsburgh as well. And notice how in the 4 base methods of Gematria, the name Mike McCarthy is a perfect supermatch with the name Tiffany Sane, which is the name of Derek Harmon's mother, who tragically passed away immediately after he was drafted. She had a stroke while Derek was playing at Michigan State, which also has matching numbers. Now, if you measure from the birthday of Mike McCarthy to the birthday of Derek Harmon, they were born exactly 2,073 weeks apart. With capital letters, the name Mike McCarthy equals 273. In the special Latin, or Agrippa's key method of Gematria, a cipher that's name has been shortened to Latin as the first 23 letters are identical to the classical Latin alphabet. Notice how the word mother equals 273. This is also the reverse value of the number 666. The name Mike McCarthy has the digits 997 with square numbers. This matches the Brown lunation number that Derek Harmon was born under. And when it comes to the Brown lunation number, the very week after the Pittsburgh Steelers got their 666th win, their very next game was against the Green Bay Packers. And the score of this game was 19-23. Well, 1923 is the year that the Brown lunation number count began. So again, this is all synced up to the moon, and you will see this perfectly in a little bit. With capital letters added, the word moon equals 83. This is also the ordinal gematria of the sport of football, which gives us another 83. Well, the year 83 is when Aaron Rodgers was born. Meanwhile, Derek Harmon, the new Pittsburgh Steeler, was born on 8/3, or August 3rd, Tom Brady's birthday. In the reverse alphabetic order, the words mother and murder equal 83. Derek Harmon was born 83 years after the Green Bay Packers were founded. His mom died 80 weeks and 3 days after the 322nd anniversary of Yale University. Yale University with 83 gematria. And the school was founded on the date leaving 83 days in the year. Yale is home to the Skull and Bone Society, Order 322, and celebrated their 322nd anniversary in 2023. So this all went down 80 weeks and 3 days later. Perfect for the murder of a mother. Harmon was born in the year 2003, and the 23rd square number also connects to the word murder, 529, but also the Kabbalah, where the word murder equals 93. In Gematria, the Green Bay Packers sums to 93 with the S exception, the host of this year's draft. Quarterback Aaron Charles Rodgers, his full name is 93. The last name Harmon equals 93, and mother is also 93 in the Kabbalah. Derek Harmon was 90 months and 3 days old for Super Bowl 45. And this is an important number to Christianity. The Catholic wing of Christianity just losing their pope. Christianity equals 930, the number of years that Adam lived to in the Bible. God's Son, Nazareth, and crucifix, more 93s. So earlier we looked at the word sacrifice summing to 62. And today, the 62nd birthday of the other NFL player named Derek Harmon. Well, in the alphabetic order, sacrifice equals 73, just like ritual sacrifice in reduction. And the host of the draft was the Packers, which equals 73 and 37. On the date Tiffany Sane passed away, the numerology was 73 and 37. This was also the date leaving 251 days in the year. That matches ritual sacrifice. This is the 54th prime number, matching Green Bay 540. And night one of the draft was a span of 540 days after the Pittsburgh Steelers earned their 666th win in regular season history. This was a significant game that occurred in November of 2023. In fact, earlier that week, a former Pittsburgh NFL player died on the ice, or NHL, I'm sorry. This hockey player, Adam Johnson, killed in England by a freak accident. And then a few days later, the NFL team from that city gets this special victory. So we saw the gematria of the word sacrifice, but I want to talk about the gematria instead of the word kill. In ancient Hebrew gematria, where many people believe gematria originated, the word kill equals 19 and 244. This is an important number pairing. When you write out the number 19 in Latin, it equals 244. And think about the date that the NFL draft began this year. The 24th day of the 4th month, or 244 on the calendar. So Harmon drafted on this date, his mother dead on that date. Derek Harmon was born 244 days after Aaron Rodgers' birthday. But also notice the 19. The draft began exactly 190 lunar orbits after Super Bowl 45, a lunar orbit also called a sidereal month. The draft was also 19 sidereal months and 19 days after the Steelers got win 666. In fact, when Steelers legend Franco Harris died, Harmon was 19 years and 19 weeks old. Derek Harmon's mother, also 109, like mother and murder. But perhaps more striking is the English gematria of the word kill, which sums to 44. In English standard gematria, where the numbers are constructed identically to Latin, but we instead use the current 26-letter alphabetic order, 44 equals 1512. And this matches Aaron Rodgers' age for the death of Tiffany Sane, 15,120 days. Now, this same measurement is also exactly 2,160 weeks. And that, my friends, is the equatorial diameter of the moon, 2160. But before we talk about the moon in depth, I want to look at this riddle connected to the number 77. Because the draft commenced on a Thursday night, exactly 77 weeks after the Steelers won their 666th game on Thursday Night Football. And her name, Tiffany Sane, equals 707. This draft was hosted in Green Bay, which equals 77 ordinal. Pittsburgh Steelers running back Franco Harris died 77 days before his birthday. And in reduction, his name equals 77 reverse. Tiffany died 77 days after the anniversary of the Steelers-Packers Super Bowl. But this is where things get weird, because this points us to a riddle connected to 9/11. She died 14 years and 77 days after that Super Bowl. That's the Latin gematria of World Trade Center, and of course 7 plus 7 is 14. Well, Franco Harris died 7,770 days after the World Trade Center collapsed. World Trade Center and September 11th both equal 77. Now, notice how I placed Christ here, because the name Christ is 77. Well, in Latin, Jesus equals 985. And look at how old the Green Bay Packers were. The franchise turned exactly 985 months old for the 9/11 attacks. Digits shared by Aaron Rodgers and the World Trade Center. And of course, this is important because the Pope just died. And Catholics believe that no human is closer to Christ than the Pope, which is why they mourn so much. And yeah, I was going to go on a Catholic rant, but no need for that. Maybe at the end of the video. But here's what brings this all together. When you write the word 77 out, you get Gematria of 2180. The word moon equals 218 in Hebrew, and death is 218 standard. Well, the death of Tiffany Sane was exactly 2 years and 18 weeks after the death of Franco Harris. Derek Harmon was born 218 days before Harris's birthday. Tiffany Sane died 2 months and 18 days after the anniversary of Super Bowl 45. I must have missed something up ahead because I refreshed and got more data. Oh, yeah. So the coach of the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, he has that special 322 skull and bones connection. His full name equals 322, like the World Trade Center and collapse of the World Trade Center. Today, the Pope's funeral is exactly 32 years and 2 months after the World Trade Center bombing. 322. Well, if you look at Mike Tomlin's age, when Tiffany Sane died, not only do you get the 19, but you also get a 399, which is murder in Latin. So he does have some numbers that connect. But I don't want to get sidetracked. This number 218 that I was ranting about before is also found in the Gematria of the World Trade Center and Twin Towers, both 218. And in this year's draft, Harmon was the 21st pick. In the alphabetic order, 21st pick equals 218. Now, why do I think that this is actually a riddle connected to Shedeur Sanders? Because Sanders is really the big story of this year's draft. Projected to be a top pick. Ended up not getting selected until the 5th round. And he got taken at the 144th pick. Well, the number 144 is mentioned 4 different times in the book of Revelation. Think about how there's 144,000 individuals going to Mount Zion. So no mistake here that he's pick 144 in the 25 NFL draft. 25 is important because in Hebrew Gematria, revelation equals 25 in reduction. So, the name Shedeur Sanders, well, what do you know? His name equals 218. The book of Revelation equals 218. Now, if you punch in Shedeur Sanders' birthday, and you know his birthday is relevant because he was born on February 7th, the date written 207, and his full name, Shedeur Dion Sanders, equals 207. Anyway, when you run the number of days between his birthday and Derek Harmon, notice how there's 177 days between their birthdays, and they were also born 77 weeks apart. So it does seem like this is all a riddle that points to Shedeur and his drastic slide all the way down to the 5th round. So next up, let's expand on this riddle connected to the number of the beast. Because in the Fibonacci method of Gematria, the cipher in the lower right part of your screen here, where only the first 13 Fibonacci numbers are used, the name Harmon sums to 666. And again, Kamala Harris, 60 years, 6 months, and 6 days old for the news of her death. If you multiply 3 6s, you get a product of 216. Aaron Rodgers, exactly 2,160 weeks connecting to the width of the moon. Franco Harris dead 2 months and 16 days before his birthday. Now, earlier we talked about the Steelers getting this special 666 win on the board against the Titans. Well, when that happened, check out how old Derek Harmon was. Notice how he was 1,056 weeks of age, and that game was 275 days before his birthday. Well, the phrase 666 equals 156, and 666 equals 275. Now, this phrase also equals 211 in the reverse order. This Steelers game was on the 2nd of February, or 211. Franco Harris dead 21 years, 100 days after the 9/11 attacks. Now, real quick, I want to talk about what connects this Super Bowl to 9/11. Super Bowl 45 with the Packers and Steelers in the year 2011. Now, I guess you could say the year was 11, which was like the shape of the towers destroyed on the 11th in the 11th state. One of the towers was struck by Flight 11, right? But there's actually a deeper mystical riddle here. 911 is the 156th prime number. And we just saw how 666 is 156. Just like 666s, right? So in the year 2011, that's the year that Solar Saros 156 began. Now, on the screen, I'm going to put up a list of Saros cycles to help you understand this. So here you're looking at every Solar Saros series numbered from -13 through 190. This encompasses the entire 5 millennium canon of solar eclipses. You can find this at xjubier.free.fr, XJUBIER. Essentially, it's an eclipse database, and this is a spreadsheet version of that. Well, in the year 2011, that was the beginning of Solar Saros 156. It was the first Saros to begin since 1928. And there's no new Saros until 2058. So this was a big deal to the occult, so to speak. 2011 has this 156 connection. And don't forget, 156 is also the 119th prime number, or composite number, to be more accurate. So there's also numerology connected to Pope Francis here as well. The number of the beast is revealed in the 66th book of the Bible within the 229th verse. 66 and 229. Well, Derek Harmon was born 66 years and 229 days after Pope Francis. And when his mother died, the Pope would have been 88 years, 4 months, and 7 days. The word beast equals 88 and 47. And again, the beast revealed in the 66th book, the 229th verse. Whoever's doing this scripting is very talented. Now, if you write out the number 666, It sums to 2,083. When the Steelers got their 666th win, Aaron Rodgers was exactly 2,083 weeks old. And that game was also 283 days before the Packers' anniversary. The draft in Green Bay began 2,803 days after the first Great American Eclipse in 2017. It's also been 283 months since the 9/11 attacks, which happened 283 days after Aaron Rodgers' birthday. But of course, there's more. 2,083 is the 314th prime number. And of course, 314, the first three digits of pi. Mathematics of the circle, 666. And a 216. Well, 3.14 equals 888. The Steelers got their 666th win, 8,088 days after the 9/11 attacks. And 9/11 is connected to pi, of course, because the book Life of Pi, which later became a big Hollywood film, was published on the same day as those terror attacks. Now, the first 5 digits of pi are 3.1415. And look at the Pope's age when Franco Harris died. 31,415 days. Franco Harris, get it? The Pope was also a span of 86 years and 4 days old. 864,000 miles is the equatorial diameter of the sun. Also a significant number to time, as there's 86,400 seconds every day. So if you measure from the date Francis became the Pope to the date of the draft, it's 12 years and 6 weeks exactly. Well, 1260 is the Gematria of September 11th, also Pittsburgh, and Aaron Charles Rodgers, 1206. I mean, how weird is it, too, that Derek Harmon's mother equals 973, and that's the Brown Lunation number for the 9/11 attacks, 973? Don't forget the Twin Towers opened in 1973. And the number 973 equals 1973 in Gematria. So, measuring from the 9/11 attacks to the death of Franco Harris is exactly 1,110 weeks. The attacks began at 8:46 at the World Trade Center, which both sum to 1110. The temples of Jerusalem, Solomon's Temple, one of those sums to 1110. Secret Society, 1110 as well. When the Steelers lost to the Packers in the Super Bowl, Franco Harris was exactly 60 years, 11 months old. When Pittsburgh won their 666th game, he would have been exactly 911 lunar phases old. A lunar phase, of course, measuring the time between new moons. It's a couple days longer than a lunar orbit. So Franco would have been exactly 911 moons for that 666th win. Well, 9/11 is the Gematria of ritual human sacrifice. Now, when you flip this number upside down, you get a 116. The Pope's funeral and the news of Tiffany Sane's passing fell on the 116th day of the year, today. The host of the draft, Packers, equals 116. The Packers won the Super Bowl 116 lunar phases after the 9/11 attacks. This matches the date numerology for Aaron Rodgers' birth, 116. Franco Harris with a 116 connection to the Packers' founding date. And now we get the death of Derek Harmon's mother, which equals 116. 1,101 months and 16 days after the Steelers were founded, and 1 year, 16 days after the second Great American Eclipse. The name Harmon also has a 119. Digits found in Aaron Rodgers' age when you exclude the end date. And yes, the eclipse code makes sense here, because the name Derek Harmon equals 470 and 137. Just like total eclipse 47 and 137. Also, the name Harmon equals 69. So does his mom's name, Tiffany Sane. Green Bay Packers and Mike McCarthy, both 69. Eclipse, eclipse of the sun, eclipse the sun, all 69. Like pi and circles, 69. Finally, let's look at the skull and bones code and how the digits of this particularly secretive society are stamped in. Now, earlier on, we looked at this spreadsheet showing the total records for all the NFL teams. And there was another very intriguing riddle. Because in order to win their 666th game of all time, the Washington Commanders had to give the Detroit Lions their 724th loss of all time. Notice how the New York Giants, the home to the 9/11 attacks, also have 724 wins right now. But back to this 724 for Detroit, right? I think Detroit hosted last year's draft. Detroit also with 606 wins. But this brings us to Gematria, where the Brotherhood of Death has matching 724 Gematria with Number of the Beast. And Pittsburgh, where Derek Harmon will be taking his talents, is home to the 724 area code. Brotherhood of Death also with a 666 when you add the base methods. Pittsburgh got win 666 in the year 2023, like Skull and Crossbones 223. The draft began 223 days before Aaron Rodgers' birthday, and the Packers were founded on the 223rd day of the year. Derek Harmon born 22 months and 23 days after the 9/11 attacks. And it really does seem like Rodgers might be signing with the Steelers, doesn't it? I mean, they didn't draft Sanders. They're pretty weak at the position right now. So it looks quite possible, doesn't it? Well, Aaron Rodgers was born exactly 2,630 weeks after the Steelers were founded. And if you write out Order of the Skull and Bones, Skull and Crossbones, or Masonic, it all equals 263. So believe it or not, there's stuff I left out of this decode. It's actually kind of crazy. I want to look at this guy, Derek Todd Harmon, the other Derek Harmon in the NFL. And just look at his gematria. He's got 90 and 99. The upside down 666. His name is also 180. And 18 is the sum of 3 sixes. Also in standard gematria, his name equals 738. You know what else equals that number in the same cipher? Devil. No. Mark of the Beast. Mark of the Beast is 738. I think it's the devil. Come on, Derek, get with it. Where is it? 738 is devil in Latin. All right. So, It was only 2 strikes on that one. Mark of the Beast, 738, and 144, like Shedeur's draft pick, 144. And yeah, this Derek Harmon, born April 26th, celebrating his birthday today, the date of the Pope's funeral. So yeah, if you want to see more about the NFL and its syncs to Pope Francis, check out the last video I made, which is on the death of Steve McMichael, who was also a pro wrestler with the Four Horsemen. And the Four Horsemen get their name from the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And of course, the apocalypse was a huge theme in the death of Pope Francis. Dead exactly 2,777 years after the founding of ancient Rome, which is the 404th prime number. That's the number of verses in Revelation, and Pope Francis equals 404. Dead 4 years, 4 months after the eclipse over his homeland, which was 404 weeks after he became the Pope. He also died 4 months, 4 days after his birthday. Just incredible stuff we've seen this week. And as always, there's more, but again, I mean, I just made a 40-minute video on a football player that most people never heard of. And that just goes to show you how deep these numerical connections run. And followers of my channel, they understand, I got 835 videos, and how many of those videos are about the exact set of numbers I discussed in this video? Probably close to half of them, right? So it's a growing library, one I'm increasingly proud of. And yeah, you can use the search to look for any old big news stories you may be wondering about, as there's a pretty damn good chance there's a significant numerical riddle that lies within. So with that, I'll be signing off. Thanks to everybody for watching, whether you're checking it out live or archived. Thanks for the view. Do feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Anything else to help the channel. Peace, love, God bless. And we'll talk to you all next time. See ya.